Well, hey, everybody, this is James Gailliard. Welcome to the James Gailliard Show, Soul 92.1 FM, the People's Station. Appreciate all of you listening. You know that sometimes I'm traveling throughout the state trying to get that vote out, and I promise I will bring you some pre-recorded content from thought leaders, from movers, from shakers, from people that you just need to know. And so today, in studio, me keeping that promise, is State Representative, I believe, soon to be our next state treasurer, Wesley Harris. Wesley, welcome, man.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here.
So tell the folk, introduce yourself to the folk. Your viewership right now is really statewide, but on the radio side it starts in Durham and literally goes all the way to Roanoke Rapids. Excellent. So you've got Roanoke Rapids here, you've got Princeville, you've got Pine Tops, you've got Rocky Mount, you've got Wilson, you've got Tarboro, all those Zebulon, Knightdale, Raleigh, and then Durham we stop at. So for those who don't know Wesley Harris, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me. My name is Wesley Harris, so I currently represent you in the State House. Served with you, James, for 2 terms up there. But I grew up in rural North Carolina, on the northwestern corner of the state, little county called Alexander County. As I like to say, I grew up in real rural North Carolina because so rural I had to be born in the county next door because there wasn't a hospital in my county. And so I live in Charlotte now. So I've been in the legislature since 2018. We flipped a seat back in 2018. We're actually the first Democrat to ever even represent that part of Charlotte. As I tell folks, it was Mitt Romney Central before Trump got elected. It was about 8 square miles, but there were 7 country clubs in it.
Wow! And
so there never even been strong Democratic presence there at all. But we were able to flip it, with Trump coming in and shifting the suburbs how it did. But growing up in rural North Carolina taught me a lot about what we need from our government. My dad was a local banker and my mom was a public school teacher. As I like to tell folks, put a banker and a state employee together. That's literally the treasurer's job. And I was so blessed because I had a great family and parents that cared about me and did what they needed to do to set me up for success. But it was living in North Carolina at the time when we had a government that invested in me, that gave me all those opportunities that I had. A great public education. I had great teachers that were taken care of, that had good pension plans, that had good health plan, and it allowed me to go to a great public university. I went to Chapel Hill for undergrad, majored in economics, was able to graduate debt free, which is the biggest gift a state can give you. And I actually graduated college in 2009, which was the height of the largest economic crisis since the Great Depression. Right. And so there were no jobs available. So I went on to grad school and got a PhD in economics because I really wanted to understand more than anything, what role the government has on not only the economy but our lives, but more importantly, what role the government should have on our economy and lives. And so my specialty was public finance. I actually wrote my dissertation on political geography, which, North Carolina is a perfect example of that. And, taught for a little while at South Carolina, moved up to Boston, was an economic consultant, and got back to North Carolina in 2016. And, it was a different North Carolina than I left in 2009 when I graduated undergrad. We were the beacon of the South. Right. It was South Carolina everybody always pointed to, just be like, my God, what's happening down there? Right. And then Republicans took over, and we started undercutting those very investments that made my life possible and made my opportunities possible. And so I decided, I was like, instead of really going in and going full-fledged into my career, I was like, I need to go into public service. I need to fight for the state that I know that we are. Yeah. And so decided to run for the legislature in 2018, got elected. So this is my 3rd term in the legislature. I'm the only PhD economist in the state legislature. Yeah. And so, I've been one of the lead messengers and policy experts for finance in our caucus. That's right. In our party since I've been elected. And there have just been time after time of all these short-sighted financial decisions that are setting us up for failure. Mm-hmm. You have to double down on the investments that made North Carolina what North Carolina is. Right. And we have been reneging on so many of those promises. And so, being one member of 120 in the State House, representing a very affluent part of South Charlotte, is nice. But, we got to change all of North Carolina. Right. And so, after the 2022 election, I started looking at how I could best be useful to my state and my community, and looked at the state treasurer's position. And I think we need someone as a state treasurer who understands North Carolina, right, who understands what North Carolina is capable of, and can be able to go to the entire state and give that economic message, particularly because I think that we need that more than anything right now to counteract what is happening, because so many people are angry, so many people are economically anxious, and that's driving so much of the division in our country that we need someone who can go out there and message about, like, this is why this is happening. These are the policies that have been put in place that are creating these levels of situations and how we move forward from that. And so that's why I'm running.
That is so good. And I'm thrilled that you were running. I was excited to hear that you were running. So for those of you just tuning in, it's James Gailliard. We're on Soul 92.1 FM, and I'm with State Representative Wesley Harris, who is our candidate for state treasurer. I think, Representative, the average voter is clueless what the treasurer does. Give us not a PhD perspective, but like a regular voting person's perspective on what the state treasurer does and why it matters to the typical voter.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so, the state treasurer is the keeper of the public purse. And so they got three main jobs. The first one is they're sole fiduciary of the state pension plan, which manages and invests every state employee's retirement funds, so they can, make sure they have a long, successful retirement. They're also chair of the state health plan, which again is the health plan that everyone who's a state or local employee has a part of, and some state employees. And then they're also chair of the local government commission. And so that's actually a unique role in North Carolina in the sense that every county and every local government, if they want to take on any debt to build schools, build roads, build anything they want to build, it has to get approved by the local government commission to make sure that they got the money to be able to do that. Which is actually a great thing because, even on bond markets, there's actually something called a North Carolina premium that because we have this extra layer of approval that it makes actually financing those type of capital projects cheaper. For North Carolina. And so I like to think of it as kind of the financial watchdog of all of our local governments. And so it impacts everybody's life in the sense that, we got 100 counties. In 61 counties, the largest employer is some state agency. In 51 of them, it's the school system. And so managing the pension plan and managing the health plan means that this job manages the benefits of the largest employer in over half of our state.
Wow.
And so it's huge because, again, you can't have a government that works for everybody if you don't have good people willing to work for the government.
So, and I appreciate that. That's helpful. I'm personally a huge fan of our local government commission. I think it was insightful for us to do it, particularly living in a smaller county. So let's just unpack each of those three real quick. Let's start with the state pension plan. Then we'll go to the health plan. What would be top of mind for you to say, look, this is something we need to make sure we're doing, and if I was elected, I would do that?
We got to improve the returns, which honestly is actually the easiest thing for this job going forward because our pension plan's $125 billion. It's massive. But 14% of that is currently sitting in cash. I challenge any of the listeners to go talk to their financial advisor and ask how much of their retirement portfolios in cash. And it ain't 14%. It's about 2%.
Gotcha.
Every other pension plan in the country has cash at about 2%. And so we have over $15 billion that we could invest. And again, doesn't have to be super risky investments. You can be index funds. You can be pretty moderate conservative investments. And we would be looking at an extra $1 billion a year coming into our pension plan. Over the past 5 years, we could have had an extra $10 billion in our pension plan, which would have provided any cost of living adjustment we could have dreamed of to help our retirees deal with inflation of the past couple years. And so that's step one of making sure we get the returns because we have to make we have to keep those promises to our state employees.
And people are living longer.
Exactly. And, because the bargain we used to make with folks is you're never going to get rich working for state government. But if you devote your life, if you devote your career to the people of North Carolina, you're going to have great health care and you're going to have a great retirement. And we haven't really been able to fulfill both of those promises in the last couple of years. And so the first thing is making sure that not only will you have a stable retirement, it will be a good retirement where you can retire comfortably and you don't have to worry about that.
Gotcha. So let's talk about health. I know as a small business owner, man, our health plan costs it almost feels like a scam to me.
Right.
I mean, to be honest, because the premiums are so high, we pay so much, and then you're still out of pocket so significantly when you use it. It's just the craziest system. So what would be top of mind for you relative to the state health plan?
So the biggest thing is, over the past couple of years, we've been cutting benefits. Premiums have remained constant, which is great. It's great to keep premiums constant, particularly as inflation's going up. but we're doing so by we're cutting benefits. And again, if you're going to get underpaid your entire career and you can't get good health coverage and you can't get a great pension, it's no shock that we're struggling to find people who are willing to work for the government. And so we got to be able to expand benefits, and really kind of the key ways to kind of lower overall healthcare costs. You really do it through this. We got to start standing up to hospital consolidation and pharmaceutical consolidation, because right now there's just no competition in those sectors. Right. And so they can just name whatever price they want, and we're forced to either take it or not cover the drug. And that's, so either bankrupt the system or don't provide the benefits you need. And so we got to be better with negotiating with the big drug companies, with the big hospitals, to make sure that we have a fair price that we pay, which again, over 750,000 people are on the state health plan in North Carolina. That's almost 9% of our entire state, including the number one employer in 61 counties. And so it is a huge bargaining chip you can use, because they need us as much as we need them. Yeah. And so we need to use that to come to the table and negotiate better rates for us. Second thing is we got to get younger folks in. We got to get younger folks on the system. You got to lower that risk pool, because, our state employees, we're getting older and we're getting sicker. And that means they're getting more expensive. And so you have to have young folks coming into the system on the front end to balance that out. And we got to start investing more in preventative care and wellness programs. Because at the end of the day, the only way to really lower healthcare costs, aside from pushing back from the corporate consolidation, is you got to be healthier. And you got to, not use it as much. And so that's why getting rid of the GLP-1s, the weight loss medication, was such a wild choice. Like, they're expensive on the front end. I understand that. But they've also been proven to help people lose weight, which, again, that's the biggest cause of so many later life illnesses. And the wild thing is we still cover it if you have diabetes. So if you want to use it to prevent getting diabetes, no, we won't cover that. But we'll just wait till you get diabetes, and then we'll cover it for the rest of your life. And so we're doing it, as I like to tell folks, it's really expensive to be broke. In the sense that we don't have enough money on the front end because the legislature refuses to fund it. And so we're having to cut these wellness programs and these preventative measures, which is going to end up being so much more expensive on the back end. And that's true in so many things. Like, you got to be able to invest up front to save money in the long term. And so one of the big things with this, aside from, changing some of the policies to make sure we focus on wellness programs, is pressuring the General Assembly to fund these things on the front end so that we actually can afford to make these preventative measures, which can lower healthcare costs across the board.
Makes sense. So let me ask the last for local government. Now, this is, I didn't cue you for this. I didn't cue you for any of it, right? So for those just joining, I'm James Gailliard, Choice 92.1 FM, James Gailliard Show, and I'm with a friend, former colleague in the General Assembly, Wesley Harris. We used to call him our nerd in our caucus, because he has a PhD in economics and he just knows this stuff so well. Being from Rocky Mount and having a minority-run city council, having family from Spring Lake, which is minority-run communities, there's oftentimes concern with the local government commission that it does not necessarily treat our smaller rural minority-run counties with equity. Any comment on that? Any thoughts about that?
If you look at the data, that looks to be the case. And, we get to the situation where, it's kind of a 3 strikes or 1 strike and you're out. Of, small towns, small cities, they make one mistake and then the local government commission comes in and takes over. And then they don't give them the benefit of the doubt going forward. And I think what we need to start doing going forward is have a much more kind of proactive approach of, the LGC shouldn't show up just when a town's in trouble. Because by then, there's not much you can do except for come in with, and start axing services that people depend on. And so understand, the financial realities of so many parts of the state, and come in and just be like, how can we make this possible so we don't get into these financial situations? And I think that's the biggest piece of making sure that, again, these areas, they need to grow. And in order to grow, they need those investments. They need these capital investments to be able to grow. And so it shouldn't be a sense of like, no, you can't do this, y'all. You've shown you can't do it. We need to be proactive, be like, how can we make this happen? Because this is what's necessary to be able to grow. And so I think that's kind of my approach to when I hopefully take over the LGC and get some folks in there to be like, let's see what we can to make this happen so that we can make sure we make these investments and make sure the finances are in good shape so we can continue to build, continue to grow.
So your race is what, like middle of the ballot? Where we gonna see your name?
I would say it's middle. It's the highest on the ballot I've ever been. 'Cause I'm in the state legislature, right? I've been at the bottom for a while, but so it's you got president, Congress, and then governor and all the statewide candidates. So I'm at the bottom of the council state, but right above Supreme Court seats. So, so it's all the council states. I'm the bottom, and then you have Allison Riggs' race for Supreme Court, and then all the judges. So I think right in the middle of it should be good.
Gotcha. I'm actually going to bring Allison in next. So, listen, final word, man. Tell the folk, why they should vote for you. Tell them how to vote for you and how to reach you if they want more information on your race.
Yeah, absolutely. You should vote for me because I believe that we need a government that invests in our people. Everything that we are is having the opportunity. And if you want our democracy to work, if you want our economy to work, you have to have opportunity. And you cannot have opportunity if you don't have great schools, access to health care, and the infrastructure investments your community needs. And it is my commitment to making sure we can deliver those to every single corner of North Carolina, because that's how you make our state function. And there's no other state like North Carolina. We got more rural folks than any state other than Texas. And so if we can figure this out in North Carolina, if we can build this geographic coalition in North Carolina, that's it. We've fixed the problem in our democracy over the past 20 years. And what we do here can be the template for everywhere else. And so I'm excited for the opportunity. If you want to find out more about me, you can go to my website at harrisfornc.com. I'm glad I got that domain before Kamala jumped in the race. Or you can follow me on Twitter, Wesley Harris NC, or Instagram. And as I like to say, vote for every Harris on the ballot, and you can't go wrong this year.
I like that. Vote for every Harris on the ballot. I certainly will be doing that. Listen, y'all, we've been talking to State Representative Wesley Harris, who I believe is going to be our next state treasurer. We're going to take a quick commercial break, pay some bills, and we'll be right back.